Welcome to a very special episode of Planning Phase Syndicate. This is episode 81, and we are here tonight to talk a little bit about XMas or holidays or whatever you celebrate this year. Tonight we're going to be having a conversation. I guess it's not night, so I don't have to say that. But today we are going to be having a conversation about some cards that were on JJ's wish list to design, plus some ones Tanner did to counter the cards that JJ put out there. Tanner is going to be singing a little bit of a ditty. We had a subscriber from yet another X-Wing podcast, and Chris has donated to the stream, so I have to do a Christmas song tonight. And lastly, we're going to be having a conversation about Tanner's hate list and what he is hoping gets banned by Santa in the upcoming year. Without further ado, let's bring in JJ. The Giants are still going to lose to the Lions in the playoffs. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right, man. Doing all right. Excited, man. The holidays are here. It is a very cold morning today here over in North Carolina. The winds are howling outside. It is super strong, and I'm supposed to go outside and carol tonight. I don't know. Question mark.
Yeah, you're crazy. It is cold as a witch's butt here. Seriously, yeah. It's bad. It's like, I think it feels like it's -10 out or something like that here in Michigan. So essentially, we all worked from home today.
Heck yeah, man. Did you get too much snow?
We got quite a bit. Yeah, we got at least almost a foot, I think, over the course of the night, and it's snowing still. So I think we're supposed to receive another foot by the end of today. So,
jeez.
We have a winter advisory out. Essentially, they're saying don't leave your house unless you absolutely have to. The thing I didn't know until recently, like, because I just started working for the hospital, is that we actually offer a service to employees to help shuttle people around during the holidays. So if you're essential and you need to get into the hospital to work, they have shuttles that they have running. So, but it is a little scary if you think about it. Like, if you need hospital services in the middle of a snowstorm, what happens? I don't know. Can anything go? No idea. But anyway, happy holidays to everybody who celebrates, and hopefully your holidays are good. This is mainly a pre-recorded. We are airing it live just for the hell of it, but seeing as it's during the day, this is mainly our pre-recorded holiday episode. And JJ and I feel bad because the holidays are both on the nights we record live.
Yeah,
and
I know, right?
We just really want to make sure that we got something out there, but that we gave time back to spend with our families. So with my kids being off and JJ's kids being off, it's kind of like, hey, can you not do a podcast and hang out with us?
Christmas. So yeah.
Anyway, Krampus. yeah. So anyway, so let's get into some holiday cheer. I think the thing I want to do is let's open it up to begin with, right? So let's talk about what we're thankful for. We didn't really do this during Thanksgiving, but I think, it's a holiday, right? So we could talk about kind of what we're thankful for, things that we like about X-Wing, things that maybe we are hoping to change. We are going to do some silly stuff here, but I'll open it up and just say I'm very thankful for the community that we are a part of, for those of us that listen to us and engage with us, everybody from, the Nickel City Discord as well. And essentially, like, for me, I'm very, very thankful I don't live in a garage. Very thankful that we are able to still hang out and talk with people about a game that I love.
Yeah, absolutely. That's certainly something I'm very thankful for. Just having a great community to enjoy this hobby that we have with X-Wing, and being able to share all this time with you guys here on our podcast, and every time that we have all these games that we get to present. That's something that I enjoy sharing with all you guys out there and online, and just enjoying this cast.
The other thing I'm thankful for is I'm thankful for the Lions are going to beat the Giants this year a second time, because it's already happened once. And I don't know, JJ, what do you have to say about that?
It's not going to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know where he went, but I don't understand. Like, I don't think he quite understands what it is. JJ, are you still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were saying the Lions were going to beat the Giants, right?
No,
I'm sorry. I can't hear you. Maybe JJ. I don't know. Let me try one more time. So you're admitting the Giants are gonna lose?
No,
all right. So maybe he just won't be available for the rest of the podcast. We got to hear it. I got to hear him say it. You got to say it, JJ.
What do you want me to say?
The Lions are going to beat the Giants.
The Lions aren't making the play.
Again, I just can't hear it. So anyway, that's what JJ is thankful for, is that the Lions will definitely beat the Giants a second time in the show. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's get into Tanner's hate list. Should we do that? Or should we do the Christmas song first?
Yes, let's do our well-anticipated Tanner's Christmas song that you've prepared for today.
All right, so I have a little ditty, and I'm bringing somebody to help bring out the vibe of this song.
Hello? Is everybody here?
Yes.
I got a little song that I promised Chris from the Yet Another X-Wing podcast that I would sing. So here we go. Special rendition from Darth Vader. Jingle bells, Skywalker smells, Yoda laid an egg, the Millennium Falcon lost a thruster, and Vader got away.
That's great. Thank you, Lord Vader. Thank you. We appreciate you coming in and singing that ditty for us. Thank you, Vader.
Yeah. Feels better. Vader.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vader, for all of that.
That was great.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about Tanner's hate list. How about that? Should we do Tanner's hate list first?
Let's do it.
All right.
List. Let's get it through.
All right. So this is my Xmas list of what I hope gets banned first. So the first card is an easy one. This is the easiest one, I think, right? So we have Finn, Gunner, and Finn Pod. Which I guess Finn Gunner doesn't exist in the YASB database, so that's how much people hate him. But my number one pick of what I would like to get banned or restricted so you can never play him again, or just make him cost 8 points, is Finn Pod. So,
okay.
I do not like Finn at all. I think Finn is the worst pilot designed, period.
So for the listeners, right? So a pilot ability for Finn is while you defend or perform an attack, you may add a blank result, or you may gain a strain token to add one focus result instead. This is the 3-point pod that the Resistance has currently for this particular pilot. Now, my challenge to you is if they were to rework this ability to work as a charge-based, would this be something that would come off the hate list? Like if you're able to just spend a charge one time, and so that way it doesn't work constantly.
You mean one charge per round?
Yeah.
How about one charge per every 2 rounds?
So spend 2 charges, and that way it just recovers a charge over turns, right?
Yes. Then I wouldn't hate it. Then it wouldn't be that big a deal.
Yes. Okay.
Do not give me Finn Falcon pilot, Sandy. No. Nope. No. No Finn Falcon pilot. If anybody ever makes a Finn Falcon pilot, I will quit X-Wing. There you go. I'm going to state it right now. I will quit X-Wing.
All right. So what about the gunner ability? Adding the blank as long as it's a forward arc attack. If that was a charge ability as well, would that make it fair?
It's the same thing. Yeah, if it's every 2 turns, every other turn, sure. I don't care then. Every other turn is fine. I think the multiple times in a turn is what bothers me. I think even Fin Gunner once in a turn is bad. But I think really the heroic shenanigans are really the bigger issue with some of that. And the Perceptive Copilot being able to throw extra tokens, use them. The Gunner does not bother me as much as the pod does. It's only because that pod is insanely hard to kill for a 2 agility ship. Like, that pod should not take... It should not take Grievous 3 rounds to kill it. How about that?
Yeah.
I mean, because Grievous can outmaneuver him, and then he still gets a second. If he rolls a blank, he gets to add another, thing, and then heroic the stupid dice.
Heroic,
So you can't get more than 2 damage at range 1 in. You can't get more than 1 damage in at range 2 in. It's just ludicrous,
Yeah, it's a tough ship to take down. Yeah.
You could also fix it by making. I think the Fin Gunner should just be banned. Personally, I think that's kind of a bad design card. But you could also take Finn and say he's worth now 4 points. And I think it would be a little bit less of a feels bad because at least you have a 4-point slow moving ship across the board. I don't know. But you could also charge base ability. That would be fine too.
Okay. All right. So what do we have next on the list?
Well, the next one has already been taken care of, which I guess it doesn't work in YASB. I guess none of the upgrades work in YASB. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, you just got to equip it to like a ship, and that way it could work probably.
All right, we're gonna test it. See if JJ is right. Nope, still doesn't show up in the image catalog. So the next one I had was Trajectory Simulator.
Okay.
I do not like Trajectory Simulator.
Well, currently right now it is a banned upgrade. It doesn't work in standard right now. Beyond that, the only ships that can use it would be the B-Wings. And I think the Scourge bombers are the only other ones that I could think of that will be able to use it effectively. Maybe the resistant bombers, but again, they're not standard legal either. It's pretty much has died once it got banned. I haven't seen it even in extended play. You don't really see it that much, but I don't know. I mean, it's not. I don't know. I mean, I guess I could see why it would be something that would be problematic, especially in an objective-based game. But yeah, I can kind of agree with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think being able to throw like the bombs and the mines, right? No matter what ship you use, if you outside of there's one pilot, right, that is kind of like an extended because he can hold it. So Nim can hold it, but Nim's only one pilot, and Nim sucks enough that you can't just run Nim all the time and think you're going to win games, because you get to freeze one of the bombs. But what Trajectory Simulator does is it says, hey, I could just run forward and throw something at you. I could do whatever you want. Like I don't have to sit around and worry about taking my own damage from it. And because bombs don't always require dice usage, that's the bigger issue. It's like guaranteed damage. So I could just lob things at you and I don't have to worry about it. So it's more of a negative play experience, I think, than anything else. And you like if you how you could change it, and this is how I would say you change it, bring it back in the game, that if you could throw the bomb immediately gains roll a dice for the result, right? So like if I throw a proton bomb, you don't automatically take a crit, you got to roll for it and get the crit to get the crit. So it makes it less effective, which would then allow then it would be less of a feels bad, because then it's like, okay, hey, if you know it's coming, you could choose the option of whether you want to sit there or not.
Okay.
So I think Trajectory Simulator could be changed. Again, I get thermals are like that. If you throw a thermal, it's like that. But if you throw like a blazer bomb or anything else, there is guaranteed damage that comes out of it. I don't think that's fair, personally.
Okay. All right.
Next on the list is Dash Rendar, and I don't care that he's extended. I don't care whether the Outrider title I don't care. Dash Rendar is the worst pilot ever built an X-wing. This pilot should just burn in hell. And I bet you they're going to try to bring them back. And all I could say is, I don't know what they could do to make me ever want to fly against this. But this is literally this ship goes, I don't care what, we get to do whatever we want. It's like Kira and Han Solo on steroids. And then I get to double tap you with it, no problem.
Well, I mean, during the time that it was legal, they did quite a few changes to reduce the power of Dash by taking away crew slots, by taking away gunner slots and such. We do know that the White Tea is going to be being reprinted next year, and they did specify that they will be reworking his ability. So we'll see how they do that. The ability itself for Dash Rendar, I don't think is bad because it only works while you move, right? So you can't sit on the rock and, take shots. It does get problematic when you start adding other things to it, like trick shot and like having double focuses and stuff like that. That's where it gets problematic at that point. But a 4-die gun on a big base like that has a rotating arc.
And to agility.
Is probably the best stat line so far that I could think of. If they reduce the dice to 3 dice, a 3-die primary, do you think this will be a more fair ship?
No. Not with the way his title is. Absolutely not. His title has a outmaneuver ability without it being outmaneuver.
Oh, you're talking about the title for the chassis. Yeah. Okay, the Outrider title. Okay.
Which I think he's the only one that can take it. How about this? I don't know anybody that runs anybody but Dash anyway. But no, I still think moving through obstacles, like, again, I think you need to reduce the stat line. If you're going to do it, get rid of the agility. You can make it 0 agility. If you wanted, you could put it at 1 agility and leave it at the 4. But the problem is with that talent slot and everything else, I mean, this is a 6-dice gun, So I don't, that's the bigger issue, I think, with it. It's a 6-dice gun that you can't burn down in one turn no matter what you do, ever.
Yeah, I think that lowering the agility or lowering the red on it will definitely make this a more fairer ship. The ability itself to ignore obstacles for Dash is okay. It's not the best. I mean, if you take a look at the Mining Guild ties, I mean, they're not overly prevalent in the meta right now, and they have that particular ability anyway, specifically for asteroids. But definitely, yeah, the fact that this thing essentially can get 3 to 4 dice depending on the range behind the obstacle, it does make this incredibly difficult to burn down, especially with the 10 health that it has, and all the support that the rebels get with like token sharing and stuff makes it incredibly difficult to burn down the ship. The stat line does definitely need to get reduced there. I would probably reduce the attack on it just to make it worse, so that way it's not as powerful. A trick shot is probably still going to make it a 4-die gun regardless, but at least it's not going to be like a 5 or 6-die gun that's going to come after you almost every turn, essentially like firing torpedoes at you all the time. So
fair enough. Let's get rid of it. I just say I hope they when they update it, it's just so much better, because like we really cannot have we can't have that ship ignoring obstacles. Like, that ship basically could fly anywhere on the board and shoot 4 dice unless it's at range 1. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, Merle Cobbin, which probably people are going to go, why is that on Tanner's hate list? But this is on Tanner's hate list because I just discovered the ability, and if everybody's really good at flying bullseyes, you're screwed. So it says, while a friendly ship at range 0 to 2 performs a primary attack, if you are in the defender's bullseye and the defender rolls 1 fewer defense dice. So all you have to do is get in a bullseye of a ship and they can focus fire it down. So you think of Jango Fett, right? You get in the bullseye of Jango Fett with Merle, even if you're not shooting, you're just like, I'm just going to sit here and be there. If Jango cannot kill you in that round, you're now in the bullseye of that ship. So Jango rolls 1 green dice for the whole time. So if you have 4 other ships shooting, there you go. There's 4 ships shooting 3 dice into 1 agility. It's like a negative reinforced token is what it feels like. So like, again, if this was like charge based, you know, again, I don't think Merle's super unfair personally, but I do think Merle is a problem, is going to become a problem because you can afford to sacrifice Merle to some extent and force your opponent to waste shots on Merle, because if you're in that bullseye, you're just screwed. And Merle could just care less about shots now, and Merle's just going to go, I just need to be in a bullseye so everybody else can kill you easier.
Okay. Yeah, I could definitely see that. This definitely works a lot better against medium and large bases, since you're able to get that bump more reliably on there. Probably a little harder to get off reliably on a small base ship. But I can definitely see the potential there where it can be problematic. The only thing though is that it's 3 points currently right now for the resistance. I don't know if with objectives you're looking to. I mean, it is a pretty good 3-point filler. When you have other, and I hate to say this, but when you have Finn available at a higher initiative, and it gets a little more offensive potential and defensive potential on your list there, or you have looking to like get points to fill out ships, I don't see Merle being the go-to option for most resistance lists that are flying like the Falcons for now, or you're doing more T-70 squads. There's potential for it, but I guess time in the meta will tell if this will become more and more of a problem for it, especially with lists that like to throw ordnance. Merle doesn't work against those particular attacks. It has to be primary attack only. But yeah.
Still, I don't like it. All right, next up on Tanner's hate list is Petty Officer Thanison. And I know we don't see a lot of this, but this is possibly one that they could easily bring back. I don't think they've committed to bringing back the Upsilon ship, but no, I think they should. I really think they should, because FO needs a big base ship, and we don't have one.
Yeah, it does.
It really would be nice to have a big base ship. In here, the issue I have with Thanison over any of the other ones is if the ship is in during your activation or engagement phase. So either one, after a ship in your front arc at range 0 to 2 gains 1 stress token, you may spend an energy charge. If you do, that ship gains a tractor token instead. The reason I don't like that is because it's at activation or engagement. Okay. So if you get that, you could screw somebody's maneuver completely up by throwing that tractor token and moving them. It's not even about the reduction of agility, I think, as much as it is about they gain the token, then you get to move them, and then all of a sudden, hey, now they're maneuvering into a rock, or now they're maneuvering out of position. The engagement phase, I don't like it either as much, but that one's not as big of a deal. With it, the big thing is the activation is the big thing.
So I'm kind of torn on this one, because we currently do have another crew that currently does this in the Empire, which is Seventh Sister crew, that works in the front arc only. They're very similar to Thanison, but it's only range 0-1 for her ability, and you essentially get to choose either tractor or a jam token to use, right, for that particular pilot's ability. 9 times out of 10, most people tend to go for the jam to like take off like a token for them versus the tractor, because even if you do tractor somebody, they can rotate. So you can place them in front of a rock, but they can end up just taking the stress to rotate anyway, and it won't screw up their maneuver.
It still screws up their maneuver. I mean, yeah, sure, they don't hit a rock,
Possibly.
but
yeah.
if I'm
And
doing a
the other-
two-bank and you rotate me so I'm doing a two-bank away, I'm not getting shots.
And the other part of this too is that, again, this will only affect if it's a small base, right? If you're going against a large base or medium base, then they don't particularly care about a single tractor token coming in from Thanison. So it depends on the list, I would say. I don't see as good as Seven Sister is currently right now, and granted, this is an extended ship. Seven Sister is a standard legal card. I don't know if it's meta breaking. But yeah, I mean, it just depends. If this was a tractor or a token at range 0 to 2, then I would say, yeah, absolutely. This would probably be a very problematic card. But as is, I don't know. I'm not sure if this one would be something that would make me hesitate to like have this included in the game.
I don't like it. If it went to just getting rid of the activation and it was engagement, then I think it might be a little bit different. I don't know. I think this has a problematic tendency, and there is no jam on here. This is just tractor. You know,
Yeah, this is just tractor.
yeah. If it was just jam, I wouldn't have a problem with that, which would actually be more akin to First Order, if we're being honest. That's like First Order themselves are the jammers of the world, it seems.
Yeah. And this actually works really well with Tyranny as well, right? Because when you have the Betrayed Trust condition, that ship, whenever it activates, it gives everything in its firing arc a stress. Then you can trigger Thanison off of that to tractor them. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel that it's a bad. I think it's a bad card, but I think it's not as bad. How about this? It's not as bad as Finn.
Yeah, I agree there. Yeah.
Speaking of the Empire, my next pick is Countdown. And I won't tell you I insanely hate Countdown, but I do. Because essentially it gets 5 rounds, 3 or 4 rounds, where it can just say, nope. We're just going to cancel your hits. It's like an insane ident, you know?
So I do agree that Countdown is definitely a tough ship to take down. However, I don't think it's unbeatable. This is a ship that requires it to be focus fired. You can't engage just one-on-one, because Countdown will come out on top all the time, right? Because it just has the ability to take a stress and negate all the damage and just take a single damage on it. It's still net immune to bombs. It's still anything that can flip a damage card over can potentially cripple it as well. When you take a look at the Kylo Ren condition cards, or Deadeye Shot that can force you to flip over a card, that can definitely help mess that up. The other part is ships that can give away stress, like Agent Tyranny, can definitely shut this down as well. There's a couple of counters out there available for Countdown. It's just one of those ships that kind of forces you to draw attention to it in order for you to shut it down. It does force you to change the way you're flying and how you're choosing your engagements, because you're either going to chase down this 4-point ship or Darth Vader. That's most likely going to be in that list, or the Empire there. As far as negative play, I don't know if it would be.
This is 100% a negative play experience. Because what you're saying is you have to know how to fly your whole force to kill it. It's like, again, if this was charge base, or even if it was once a round, right? Once a round you can negate damage, then you would only need,
It is once a round. Because you take a stress the second you use it, and then after that it turns off the ability for the rest of that round. So you wouldn't be able to use it consecutively. Yeah. I
don't know. Maybe once every 2. It's just, to me, it's a negative play experience. That's what it is. And it's a ship that can go get objectives and live forever. And it's because, like, so if let's say I'm flying a 5-ship list, I have to dedicate 3 ships to kill that ship now. And now you've just completely ruined everything that I wanted to do. Like, it's not just a little bit ruined, it's like pretty ruined, you know? And if you roll like crap on one of those, it basically is like a free one, you know? So
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it's this is, again, when we talk about Iden is one charge for the whole time. This just makes it a little bit more. To me, it's a little bit worse. But
yeah, definitely.
All right, next up is my Nia Nub. And I'll be honest with you, this is more of a meme thing than anything else. Nia Nub is really only a negative play experience for like beginning players. Such as when I first started playing, and you can basically clear your stress, do all these other shenanigans, get double modded. You can pattern analyzer, then you can get rid of your stress, do another action. It's just stupid. But it says after you gain a stress token, if there is an enemy ship in your front arc at range 0 to 1, you get to remove that stress token. Which then means you could take additional actions.
Yeah, exactly. So the combo that you're talking about specifically is, like, let's say an event that you're doing a 4K with Ninum. If Ninum is equipped with Pattern Analyzer, then before Ninum attains a stress, he can use Pattern Analyzer to perform an action. Now, the T-70s on their foils, they have the ability to perform a barrel into a red focus. So you can essentially do that barrel to reposition, then take that red focus, and then at that point, when you gain the stress from taking the red focus, if you have a ship in your front arc, you can remove that stress. Then at the end of that particular chain, then the end of Pattern Analyzer happens. Then you would check for the stress that you would get from executing your 4K. Again, if you have a ship in your front arc, then you would lose that stress as well, since it's different timing. And then because you have no stress, then you're able to now move on to your perform action step, which would allow you to take a action at that point, which in most cases it would either be a target lock action, or a boost if you needed to as well, or any combination of that sequence of events. It essentially makes this like a pseudo TIE defender in the way that it can maneuver. The only caveat is that you just have to have that enemy ship in your front arc so you can trigger Ninum's ability. But yeah, that's the only requirement for that one.
Yeah. So again, in reality, Nia Nub is very low on my list. I throw it in there just to meme JJ more than anything else, because he's the one that showed me that combo. So
it's really good.
It's again not the insane crazy thing that that people think it is. I will say it can be a negative play experience to begin with, but again, it's very situational. And again, I guess if you talk to Corey runs Elo. Elo actually is almost worse, I think, in the long run than Nia Nub becomes, because Nia Nub only has the 3 maneuvers he can do, and that if he can do them and be at range 1, that's a little bit easier to afford doing. Elo, on the other hand, is a little bit different. So Elo triggers no matter what, for it. All right. The next one, which I think JJ might be a little surprised at, I put a separatist ship in here. Sunfac. Sunfac never dies. At least for everybody else. For me, Sunfac dies turn 1. Like every time. I think Sunfac by himself is not the problem, right? But I will say being able to roll that extra dice just is kind of a feels bad, especially at an I6. But the bigger combination is the ensnare, which essentially allows you to give that tractor token to somebody else so you don't reduce your agility. They get the tractor token, you get to reposition them, then you get to shoot 3 to 4 dice at them every time. And again, them changing tractor rules to allow you to rotate is nice. Completely nice. But again, I think Sunfac can be a negative play experience. At some point, though, he is 6 points, so you're not going to see a lot of them. But I will tell you, Sunfac does not like to die at all.
I've had mixed experiences with Sunpack. He does definitely take a lot of time to get used to because on the surface he does appear like he can be an ace, especially with the tractor shenanigans that he can pull off within the snare. However, he's very limited on where he can go. Right, he can't double reposition like a student tier. His only reposition actually is just based off of that tractor ability. So if he ends up choosing the wrong maneuver, it's very hard for him to get out of arc to avoid being shot. And this is particularly true when he's facing off against a medium or large spaceship that doesn't care about a single tractor. For his ability to work, the ship has to be fully tractored. So a medium base needs 2 tokens, and a large base needs 3 tokens. In order for Sunpack to have that ability matter with this. On a side note, yesterday I actually went out to my locals and somebody was running a Chertech with Sunfac, both with Ensnare and a Zam on a fire spray. And I actually watched them ensnare his own Zam Wessel to get out of 3 arcs and then shoot out the back. It was one of the craziest plays I've ever seen in live person X-Wing. But yeah, that was just an anecdote from last night. Man, that's
hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, so the next one is Tarani Kolda. And again, Tarani's really not the end of the world type thing, but Tarani gets the double ability. You get Dead to Rights, which essentially says you can't modify if you're in the bullseye. Tarani also says after you perform an attack, each enemy ship in your bullseye suffers 1 damage unless it removes a green token. I don't think, again, we're getting, I'm saving the one I hate the most for the last. We're gonna we probably all know that one, but we're gonna save that one to the last. But Tarani is for newer players can be a negative play experience as well, I think. Just because if you miss that ability once, you're screwed. In Extended, there is some shenanigans about tractoring Tarani and moving her, right? So I've seen that happen before. Again, when we talk about auto damage and this goes into multiple ships, this is like an insane jam effect. Again, I get it. It's only the bullseye, but still, this is a big jam effect that goes into play, or everybody's taking damage. And in X-Wing, we don't want to take damage all the time. So
yeah, I think the ships that go along, or at least the upgrade that goes along with it, very well is cluster missiles with the R5TK, which allows you to target friendlies. So if you're able to set up a lock on a friendly, have that friendly ship bump an enemy ship, so that way they can't move, and then you can get Tarani to go in and line up that bullseye. You can do your first cluster missile shot on that friendly ship, cancel it with munitions failsafe, trigger the ability, and then take the second shot on your intended target, and then trigger the ability again onto that ship, resulting on 2 automatic damage onto that particular ship using Tarani and Kolda. It's not an easy feat to pull off, but when it does hit, man, that can definitely feel like a very big negative play experience.
Yeah. Again, if it was like once per round, I would think that you could probably, at least that's only 1 damage and maybe 1 ship, right? Like instead of saying every ship in bullseye, just say, 1 ship or maybe up to 2 ships. I don't know. But if you just say it once a round, then you would at least stop that weird effect. Because I think, again, that's the bigger thing is how do I trigger all this and screw another player over? I could do this multiple times, blah, blah, blah. That's the worst part about that. It's not as much that you're taking the auto damage, but it's that you could take it up to 2 times in a round. And so I think that's the bigger thing there. Or it's like a double cham token, twice. Like FinPod's the only one that doesn't care about this. There you go. They're going to have a focus token. Oh, have a focus token. All right, the next one, we're getting towards the end here. The next one that makes the list is Quick Draw and Phasma, and it's only these two in combination. Outside of that, I don't actually think Phasma's broken or Quick Draw's broken. I like Quick Draw a lot for the double tap personally, but and you can add all these other things which makes everything such a feels bad. You can pattern analyze, get your action. Then you can do your turnaround maneuvers, right? Or your one hards, stay together. Then you get your proud tradition on top of that, right? And then if you don't shoot at quick draw because you don't want the extra attack, you can shoot. If you shoot at Phasma, it gets to determine which it wants to cancel. Here's the worst part. It screws you over if Phasma has a crate, which Phasma should almost always just have a crate because it can cancel that crit. And then it doesn't lose the crate. And then Quick Draw gets a shot. She just goes, here you go. Thank you. I'm going to shoot now a second time.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely see where you're going with that one there. The other interaction I was going to say is Lin Gava, which is the new TIFO pilot that allows you to perform the slam maneuver with Quick Draw. And then, yeah, he can take a damage to remove the weapons disabled, which will trigger his ability right there. So I'm kind of mixed on it, right? Because while it is definitely a neat ability on Quick Draw to take that bonus primary attack when he loses a shield, it also weakens Quick Draw, right? Because now he has one less shield to go, and he's only a 2 agility ship. And if you spend your tokens on that attack, you're more than likely not going to have a follow-up token to back up that second attack that he's going to do, whether it's the first primary shot or the second one. And then on top of that, if you get shot back with Quick Draw, you can't take more than one bonus shot per turn. And if he loses his shields, the majority of times, which Quick Draw does become the priority shot here, even if you're taking one bonus shot, as long as you take off those shields from Quick Draw, then Quick Draw's ability just basically is blank at that point. He's just an I6 ISF pilot. So it's, I don't know. I think having control when you can trigger Quick Draw is something that takes time to master, because Quick Draw usually has the target on its back to take off the shields, and then Quick Draw is just ignored after that. After that, you just hunt everyone else down. So I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily a negative play experience.
It's only with Phasma. That's it.
Right.
It's. I will tell you, I don't think Quick Draw is that negative of a play experience. Yeah. I do get it. Like, it's not super fun for them to slam, then shoot you. But at least with Lin, you can't upgrade, add a shield upgrade at all.
Yeah,
so you're still you're stuck at 3 shields. So you're only going to get that off once, maybe twice if you're lucky and nobody shoots. The bigger thing is the Phasma, because what it does is no matter who you target, Quick Draw always gets 2 shots, and that's to some extent a feels bad, in and of itself.
Okay.
All right, who else do we have? We haven't even talked about your hate list. You must not have a hate list.
Nope, I don't.
You don't have a hate list. You do too. You do too.
Maybe things I don't like to face off against, but as far as something that needs to be banned from the game, I don't know. I think everything that has really good abilities can be adjusted with points, so that way you can't. So if we break down what exactly makes something bad, right? It's usually a number of different factors, right? The availability of that particular upgrade or that pilot in terms of like their cost is usually the biggest driving factor for that, right? Like for instance, like taking a look at Defender Vader, right? His ability on a TIE Defender is very, very good. Can put out a lot of offense on there. For instance, let's say if Defender Vader was like an 8-point pilot, right? It would be very oppressive at that point, because while defensively, Defender Vader is not very great. Offensively, he's very good. When you combine other ships that can be added onto that particular list, then that's when it becomes oppressive, because it's almost like an auto include at that point, because it's a very big offensive potential piece at that point. But when you start adjusting its points to make it 9 or 10 or 11 points, and I'm just using Vader as the piece in this part, you can kind of adjust the power level at that point, right? Because then you have to now start making decisions on the rest of the list on what you can bring, right? You can expect to bring Defender Vader and, let's say, rack in a bunch of TIE fighters because they won't fit in a particular list. You have to sacrifice somewhere along the way in order to have the balance, right? Because while Vader can go out and take out ships easily, he's not going to be winning objectives. He's not going to be able to hold cargo very well, because that's going to turn off his ability to reposition, and it'll make him a target. And he's not going to be able to hold objectives on like Assault, because he's just a single ship by itself. So it's just having that balance in the game to adjust for those particular problematic cards or pilot upgrades that can be a negative play experience. And that's how I look at it, at least.
Sure, JJ. All right. So here is the all in all. So there's a couple of pilots that and upgrades that have made the cut. So the Sloan crew, I don't like Sloan crew. I think Admiral Sloan crew is crap. I don't like Death Troopers. I think Death Troopers are problematic in this environment. I don't think before they were, but I really do think in this environment they are very problematic. Juke, I insanely hate Juke. I think Juke, I don't know. I don't know how you fix Juke, but maybe Juke is worth 10 points, I guess. You know, I really do think Juke's like super good, and Juke is another one that I just cannot stand. The pattern analyzer, I put that on there just because I think it should be neutered, so it's more like advanced sensors. I think pattern analyzer is saying this is your action only, fixes everything. And you can even leave it at the same cost. Keep it at 5 points and say you get one action. That's it. Okay, great. Because then you can't do the some of the other shenanigans that go along with it. Mm-hmm. I think Kira is BS, but I don't think Kira breaks anything personally, but Kira is stupid. And then the LAT ability, I think, is broken. At least in Republic.
You're talking about the rerolls, correct?
Yeah, all the rerolls just has to be an arc type thing. I really have a bigger issue, especially because it could be twice a turn. I think if you figure out how to change the LAT, because the LAT is such a cool ship, I would hate to see the LAT disappear, right? Like, I don't want to see the LAT go away, but I just, like, I have a bigger issue with the LAT, and it's giving all the rerolls for everything, because what the LAT does is it basically says I can be an extreme support ship and all your other ships can just murder things because they're all going to get extra rerolls. So it's like giving Jedis and all these Born for This abilities and all these other things mods that, like, mods upon mods upon mods. It's like, did we not learn our lesson with the Rebels? So I think, the LAT ability itself is problematic. And then the last one before we get to my ultimate hate machine is the Born for This ability. I think is somewhat broken. I think that Born for This ability, it's not the pilots themselves. I don't think the cost of all those pilots are the bigger issue. I think it's just the actual ability itself is a little problematic, because it doesn't restrict you from spending all these other different types of tokens. It's just at range 0 to 2, right? So I don't know. I think that's the bigger thing with that one is just that. But we'll see. Maybe it won't be super prominent, but I do think that just, again, there's no charge base. It has the ability to do it multiple times in a round. It's really hard to focus fire a ship down now, and you're just sharing mods everywhere. As long as nobody's strained, right? So you could trajectory simulator a thermal and then give everybody strain, and then it would be different, right? Then nobody could share it.
Yep.
But the number one hated ship is Torkel Mux. And that's at the start of engagement. You may choose one ship in your firing arc. If you do, that ship engages at initiative 0 instead of its normal initiative value this round. I don't even think Torkel Mux is that good now, and I don't even think he's not even really that great because of the not being able to take the title anymore. The title really made him super oppressive, but without the title, I still hate him. Like, this is the first ship like in X-Wing, hands down, that I would say F this ship. I'm done with it. I cannot stand this ship specifically.
Torkel is the last remnant of an ability that was very prominent in 2.0, which is being able to adjust your initiative. The last remnants of 1.0, I should say, that allows you to like change your initiative and stuff like that. I'm a little torn on it, right? Because you're right. Without the title, he's not a 3-die. He doesn't have a 3-die gun anymore. The loadout on Torkel is pretty abysmal on it, and it basically, it's almost in the same category as Kanan, in my opinion, because you can essentially negate a big shot that's coming into a particular ship if you're able to align the firing arc correctly in order to get his ability off. And potentially take out that ship, or at least damage that ship enough, or force that ship to spend its tokens before it could perform its attack. But that's kind of thematic for Scum for what they have for their pilots as well. At its point cost, you almost just want to go with Paylob anyway, because you get the title and you have enough points to put Notorious on Paylob, and I think right now Paylob is probably more of a pain than Torkel is. But yeah, just that initiative like downgrade is a big deal, especially when you have like high initiative bases that want to delete stuff before they get a chance to shoot. So
yeah, like I said, I in 2.5, I think Torkel has kind of lost his bite, but at the same time, it's just, this was my number one hated ship ever
for a long time. Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, there's Tanner's hate list. JJ finally got his wish. That was a Christmas miracle. JJ got all of Tanner's hate list, so that way JJ knows what to build against me whenever we fly new lists. He'd be like, "Here, let's see if we could trigger Tanner to not fly that list good."
Right. Exactly.
All right. So we want to move into the custom cards, which is kind of, I think, the last segment that we had. Though I want to say maybe we should never do any of JJ's custom cards. Just keep it at Tanner's.
So this is JJ's wish list. This is the idea behind this was there's still currently a lot of characters in the Star Wars universe between the movies, the series, the animated series, and stuff that haven't made it out to X-Wing as of yet, either because they're too new or they just haven't translated from like 1.0 or something like that. And these are I went mainly for crew members that I would like to see in the in Star Wars X-Wing. So we made some custom cards here for everybody to see and enjoy as a wish list for something that I would like to see in X-Wing. And we'll go over them now here.
All right. Well, do you want to start at the top, just at the top, or do we want to Jimmy pick which ones we want?
Let's start from Rebels down, and we'll go from there.
All right.
So the first one that we have here is for the Rebel Alliance. Now, this is a crew card that I made here. This is for Chirrut Imwe from Rogue One. His ability reads, he is a crew member, medium for the Rebels, medium ship only. I have him with a non-recurring force charge. His ability reads, while you perform an attack at range 0 to 1, if you are not stressed, you may spend 1 force to change up to 2 focus results to hit results. After you fully execute a red maneuver, you recover a force. Now, the theme behind this particular card was from 1.0. Chirrut used to be the face of a talent that used to be known as expertise. which had a similar ability. You can change all your focus results into hits as long as you weren't stressed. I wanted to add the non-recurring force mechanic on this one, similar to like Kyo. You have to execute something in order for you to do it. So it's not something that can happen all the time. It basically forces you to do that red maneuver. That makes you less repositional for you to be able to recover your force and recharge this ability in order for you to use it. It can be used. Main use is defensive, but you can spend that force defensively if you need to in a pinch. And since it's restricted to medium base only, this would work either on the Arc 170s for the Rebels or the U-Wing on the Rebels, which have their own advantages and disadvantages for doing red maneuvers and stuff.
So I would say the only caveat that I think you would never see the light of day with that card is the range 0, just because you should not be able to modify attack dice at range 0.
Hey, what is it? CIS can do that currently with Ursa Wren.
No.
Yes, they can.
How?
Ursa Wren specifically says it allows you to reroll the dice at range 0 to 1.
All right, well, that's probably a mistake on their behalf then.
No, it was intentional. They intentionally created that card to work at range 0 to 1.
Well, maybe we should start putting that on Aurora.
Yeah.
Oh, she doesn't have a crew slot.
She doesn't have a crew slot. Yeah, no. But it is excellent on Previsla. It is excellent. That's like staple on there. Yeah. So, I would probably put this crew card out. I would say at about 7 points. What do you think?
7 points seems fair. Yeah. I mean, the only I guess the nice thing is because you don't get the reoccurring force. If you put a reoccurring force, it would have to be like 15. But without it being reoccurring, I again the range 0 seems because again here's the problem, JJ. It's an automatic, not a reroll, right? So Ursa you say is a reroll. So maybe if it said you could at range 0 you could reroll for the force spend, and then at range 1 you can make the conversion, then I would say that you're probably gonna this probably have to be closer to a 10 is my guess, because if you're gonna modify range 0 dice that easily, it's got to be worth a little bit more.
Okay.
I still don't see Ursa Wren in here.
It's a crew card.
I know it doesn't show up in my thing. Not in CIS.
Stand by. Oh, I'm sorry, Ursa Wren Gunner. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
She's 4 points. Oh no, wait. I'm talking about the wrong person. Sorry.
Say that. I don't know who you're talking about. That does not.
Stand by. Hang on. Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan crew at 6 points.
Yeah, so you could re-roll a die. So if you change yours, if you want it at 7, you need to change it to say re-roll at range 0 and convert at range 1. You could just say you could probably just say, because it's 2 results, you could just say re-roll instead of convert. And I think that would be the same thing.
Okay.
If you did that, then you could leave it at both and just say it because it's a force point. There's that. So my pick for Rebels this year was B. 5 non-recurring charges. While you coordinate, you may spend X amount of charges to coordinate that many additional ships. Coordinate actions can only be for actions on your action bar to make it a little bit more fair so they can't just take whatever they want. It is a coordinate into an evade, but it can only be used in Rebel, and it can only be used on medium or large bases. That way, if there is, I don't think there is a way in Rebel to put a small base crew slot in, because they don't have R2-D2 as a pilot, so I don't know if you can.
The Sheathipede.
Okay, so then here you go. So this would stop the Sheathipede from taking it.
Yeah,
because we don't want something that's got more agility to be able to take it. But something like this would be decent on a I always think of either a Falcon would be kind of cool to have coordinating Falcon, or you would be able to use it on like Hera. I guess Hera's extended, but what would be Callus or Chopper? On Chopper, this seems to be pretty cool. And I think some of it was to go for the thematic of BMO is the essence of what do we really, like, what do we want the rebellion to be? BMO is that character that came out and just kind of said, hey, you're going to love me. I'm an amazing character. I am the best character, I think, out of Andor, in my opinion. Even over Luthen, I think I like this droid. And it only gives you non-recurring charges. So essentially, you're going to be able to use this for 3 rounds at most. I don't know. What do you think, JJ?
Okay. What's the point cost that you're thinking?
Oh, this is probably going to be like an 8-point cost. That was my guess.
Okay. My only concern is the wording for it. Because technically, if you put the coordinate on this, then you can essentially allow other ships to now perform a coordinate action off of the coordinate that you just provided over to them.
Oh,
so I would actually take off the coordinate into link evade, just so they can't exploit that. But other than that, I do like it. I mean, it's a 5 charge, so it's not something that can be used all the entire game. You can have one really big turn where you can coordinate your entire list, or do it over time, and you have that flexibility to do it. I like the theme behind it. It's actually really nice. I like it.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with you. It's going to have to lose that coordinate, I guess, then, because it does add it. Or you would have to put a stipulation that it can't coordinate, something like that.
You would essentially rewrite it to say you may perform a coordinate action, and then while you coordinate, you may spend X charges to do that. You just have to add you may perform a coordinate action, and that way you can still do the coordinate off of this card without having that icon added to the bar, and that way they can't like coordinate off the coordinate. So yeah.
Okay. And I still like the evade, the red evade with it though.
Yeah.
Like, so maybe it just says gain a stress to gain an evade token or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Next up is Empire.
Yes. So this one here, I set up a crew card here for the Empire for Galen Erso, who was the father of Jyn Erso that we see in the Rogue One movie. So I kind of based it off of his story, right? Galen, as we know, and spoiler alert if you haven't seen Rogue One, which is one of the best Star Wars movies ever. Galen, he decided to go into the Empire and kind of set his trap for the Death Star, right? And I kind of used that theme for this particular card. So it has a setup. You have to go into your deck and take a Hull Breach card and put it under this particular upgrade card for the damage check. So while you perform an attack at the ship that has this crew, it can spend a charge. It has 2 non-recurring charges to change a focus result into a critical result. And then after you suffer a critical damage, you must suffer instead the assigned card, which is the Hull Breach. So it works kind of like the Kylo Ren ability, which you would assign a pilot card under that particular ability, and whenever you suffer a crit, you suffer that instead. This has the same theme, and in this case, it would be a Hull Breach. And I chose that particular card because it kind of helps set up the downfall of your ship, right? A Hull Breach usually sets up a chain of crits, which would be like a direct hit into a direct hit and so on. And that's very thematic for like what Galen did with the Death Star, right? One critical just set off the entire chain of events of explosions inside of the Death Star. And that's why I wanted to get that theme in there for the Empire. You have a passive mod in the focus to a crit result, but on the same hand, you're getting this crit that could potentially blow up your ship really fast.
Yeah, I think this is a great card. I would even say this could be 2 to 3 points. Honestly.
Yeah, that was my I had this at a 3-point cost. Yeah.
Yeah, because this just gives you the ability. I mean, you're not really affecting the game that much. You still don't have to worry about the range 0 thing because you don't bypass that, and all you're doing is essentially saying it's just like a free calculate. It's like the energy shell thing. That's what this is. Mm-hmm. It's a charge that does that, and it only happens 2 times.
This is a 2
or 3 point cost card. I would and again, it gives you that other option if you're building out your Empire list, right, and you have a crew slot you don't know what to do with. Here's 3 points. It gives a real option, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now make it a gunner slot too, and then I could take it on my card called Cadet 124-329. So this is an I3 pilot. It is a TIE RB. I don't know what we would cost this, but essentially I have given this TIE RB gets a modified engines upgrade or text, which essentially says spend one of your charges to decrease the difficulty of your maneuver. While you decrease the difficulty of your maneuver, you may re-roll 1 dice. Then, if your attack hits, deal 1 damage to a friendly ship at range 0 to 1 if you are able to. It says of you are able to, but it's supposed to be if you are able to, essentially.
So essentially, so if you did, so it should have 2 separate sentences, right? So if you decrease the difficulty of your choice using the modified engines, then at that point, if you met that condition, then you're able to re-roll 1 dice. And I'm assuming this is either on attack or defense, or is it just attack only?
Nope.
Attack or defense. Okay. And then if on offense, if your attack hit, then you deal 1 damage to a friendly ship at range 0 to 1. So it would be yourself if you have nobody else around you.
Yes. That way you can't just ignore it, right? You just can't ignore it.
Okay.
So you know who this is, right?
Yeah, Han Solo.
This is Han Solo.
Yeah.
And so I did a little research, and I guess Han Solo did modify his TIE fighter, and crashed it into other people. So that was kind of the idea. The thematic piece of it was to give you like a pilot that you would have to do damage to. It's kind of like a ruthless without it being ruthless. But originally I had just range 1, but then I was like, nah, you got to have that range 0 in there because there has to be somewhat of a downside to this. Otherwise, you guys have a TIE RB stop and not take any damage and all these other things. So, but I only wanted the damage to be done on offense versus defense.
Okay.
And hence, if you give me a Galen Urso gunner, then I can run this on Han Solo.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
That would be really fun. All right. On to scum cards.
Yes. So I did have an error on this. I completely forgot to change. It should not be a talent slot. It should actually be a crew slot for this one. So this one for scum, we have Fennec Shand. So this one is a dual-sided card. So the front end has while you perform an attack, if the enemy is in your bullseye, you may change a focus result into a critical result. And then after you suffer a face-up ship or crew damage, you flip this card. On the reverse side, it has Cybernetics Enhanced Fennec. It has 2 non-recurring charges. It says you may spend a charge to perform red maneuvers and actions while stressed. After you suffer a critical damage, you may recover a charge. So it basically goes from the marksman Fennec that we know and love from the Mandalorian series, and we do see her at the end of Bad Batch season 1. Being there, she is a very good marksman. And then we go to the Book of Boba Fett version of Fennec that has the cybernetic enhancements in there. And because of that, I kind of wanted to give her something like Contraband Cybernetics, an ability like that for her crew, so that way she is able to be more effective while she's stressed because she has those enhancements on there. I wanted to make it better than Contraband because obviously, this is a more well-known character. But because of the ability, the potential for it, I want to say that I would probably put this at a 6-point cost for this crew.
Yeah, this has to be 6 or 7 points.
Yeah.
I do agree. I mean, the only issue I have is I don't like after you suffer a crit, you get to recover a charge. So essentially, if you think about this, you could put this on Bosk, and as long as you get a crit damage, Bosk can just sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there forever, which I do not like. But
it's still a crit. I mean,
but it is still a crit.
If you get a damage sensor array, then you can't really do any other actions.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think we'd have to play test with it. I don't think it's bad in any way or broken. I would be a little cautious on that crit. But yeah, this has to be a 6 or 7 point cost, easy. You know,
easy. Yeah.
For it. All right, my scum one was Mercurial Swift, the Lone Bounty Hunter. And this is probably because I read the Aftermath books this year at the beginning of the year, so this kind of came up. But his ability is Lone Hunter, right? And it says, if no friendly ships are in your arc at range 0 to 2, reduce the difficulty of all basic maneuvers. I put him in the ST-70. I made it basic only maneuvers. That way you can't just do a stop and just sit there, because that would be BS. Yeah. But this is like, if you think about it, this is like L337 programming, just kind of as a card. But it has a condition of no friendly ships. So, because he is truly a lone bounty hunter. His ability is, while performing an attack, you may spend up to 3 charges with 1 reoccurring every turn to give the defender that many ion tokens. If you do, suffer 1 crit immediately. Okay. So the idea is you're able to ionize, which again, the tractor would be the worst part, but because it's just an ion token, you're just essentially saying, hey, I want this ship to stay put. And this basically, if you read any of the Aftermath books, and I guess I could say this because they're pretty old now. So Swift essentially says, no, I do not want to partner with Dengar and basically win against everybody. Then tried to blackmail and like capture one. Was it Jazz? I can't remember how to. Jazz. I think it was Jazz. Which was another bounty hunter that was teaming up with Sloan at the time, and basically gets a crew together, and then the crew all churns on him, and he's like, "Screw you!" But he has this sword axe type thing that has poison in it, and basically what it does is it stops you, and that's how he uses it to assassinate. And I can't remember who he assassinates at this point. It's been a while. But yeah, so the idea would be is you could stop people from moving with your ion tokens, so you would be able to do it on a big base ship, but you would only be able to do it. But you can essentially ionize somebody every turn, but in turn you suffer a crit. So I guess if you're shielded, it's really not that big of a deal. But at the same token, you're suffering a crit damage. And since these things only get two shields, if anybody shoots at this, essentially that crit you're suffering is in exchange to give somebody an ion token.
Yeah. So just to follow up then, so the ability to add ions, should it be worded to say if this attack hits, then you can add the ion tokens, or can you do it regardless if it hits or not?
I was saying do it regardless of if it hits, but it might be too powerful, so maybe you would have to do that way. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say that the attack would have to hit in order for you to be able to apply that. And that penalty of taking 1 crit is definitely a good way to level that out. Yeah.
Yep. So this is an easy 7 cost ship.
Yeah, I would say that's a 7 cost. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It being an I3, you might be able to get away with 6 points for it, but I don't know. Like, I guess if the attack has to hit, maybe you could go down to 6. But
yeah, if the attack has to hit, at that point I would agree that it could qualify for a 6-point cost. But without it, if it's automatic, then it has to be 7 at that point. Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to Resistance.
All right, so this one here is Toradoza. Now, I put her specifically on the Fireball, even though she has not flown it in the show, but that's currently what we have for X-Wing that's even remotely related to this show here. So on this one here, I gave it the same chassis ability as the Fireball. Her ability reads, after you fully execute a 2 to 4 speed maneuver, you may execute a boost maneuver even while stressed. I added this particular ability for the Fireball because she is an ace. She is a racer, so she naturally would like to go faster. And I think that goes very, very well with the Fireball, just to make it a lot more maneuverable and to get into spaces. This could probably work very well with like ordnance in order for it to get into like close range to get a certain ordnance off. The loadout would probably have to be around the same as Kaz, or if not just slightly less, in order for it to be viable over Kaz. But I think it's a fun pilot to add for the Fireball.
Yeah. 4 points. I think it's fine. You could kill the loadout, make the loadout like, I don't know, like 5 points of loadout, and you could have her at 3 if you wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, her cost would be directly linked to her loadout value. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a good ship. I don't see any big issues with that. It'd be nice if we could get her ship in the game because it looks cool.
Yeah.
So I kind of went very similar themed. I did Griff. I don't know how to say his last name. Halloran.
Yeah.
And essentially Griff flies is called a modified TIE fighter. They don't have TIE fighters in Resistance.
Yes.
So I decided to use more of an AC ship for an RZ2A. I do agree we could, if we wanted to deal with and look at how do we want to make the ship TIE fighter in Resistance, we could do that. It would be an easy way for AMG to sell shit very easily. But for now, what I decided to do is just say, hey, let's just put it in an AZ2 A-Wing, because essentially his modified TIE fighter is not a TIE fighter. It does not move like a TIE fighter. It does not do anything like a TIE fighter at all. So I gave it the text of saying, after you perform a red maneuver or action, you may gain an ion token instead of a stress. And that's very thematic for him because they were giving out ion tokens when they used to do the racing in the first season. Mm-hmm. So that was like a big thing. Like everybody got ionized, blah, 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 you know. So I thought that, and I would actually even challenge taking that explosion with wings off of Doza and giving her the Colossus Aces title to say the same thing. I think that would be very thematic and would be hilarious. It would be something different AMG has not done before.
I would probably name it like modified for racing.
Sure, that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care what you do. Colossus Aces was just a way for me to identify. So he is the Black Ace. Yeah. Essentially, his actual ability is while your turret is pointed forward, increase your attack die by 1 and decrease your defense die by 1. So essentially, it's because Griff is extremely offensive and not as defensive. If you watch the show, Griff is very aggressive. I wanted to do it without the stress, like for Tally, but essentially this is just kind of a Tally-ish maneuver.
You mean Lulo?
Or not Lulo? Yep.
Yeah.
It's like Lulo, except for it's based on where your turret is pointed. So that way you can't point your turret in the back and still do this ability. So it's a little bit less than Lulo, so it will allow you to have, I think, a higher. I think you can still bring this in at 4 points. But you can have a higher loadout value to give Griff more of a punch if you wanted.
Yeah, I like that.
And essentially the idea would be so if you, like, I would not give it a torpedo slot. I think that would be very criminal to give a proton torpedo to this thing. But you could, like, he could use, like, cluster missiles or concussion missiles and have a 4-dice cluster missile attack.
I would actually go as far as giving it a cannon slot instead of a missile slot.
Okay.
I think that would work better, especially if it's like a modified TIE. I think that it would probably work out better for that in that case. To my knowledge, the Resistance doesn't have an A-Wing with a cannon slot. So that would be probably a good carrier for a cannon.
All right, that's fair. That would be, and that could be somewhat fun to have as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to First Order.
First Order. So this one here is Captain Kennedy that we see in The Last Jedi. He was the captain of the dreadnought that the First Order had when they were assaulting the car. His ability reads, before you activate, you may spend 2 charges. They are recurring. If you do, each friendly ship at 0 to 1 may perform a boost maneuver. If they do, then they gain a strain token. This can only be placed on a medium or a large ship. I specifically wanted the timing to do before you activate, so it'll be whatever ship, whatever initiative that ship activates, because this will kind of encourage you to use some of the lower initiative, like Z-class shuttle pilots or the large bases, if they ever bring back the Kylo Ren shuttle, and that we can trigger this off more reliably or without leaving your ships to have strain tokens. And just would be like an every other thing. This is kind of like based off of Jerjerrod crew for the Empire, just giving out a strain instead of a stress. I think it's something that that kind of is thematic with the First Order, to be aggressive with their maneuvers, and that way they can get into position faster if they need to.
Yeah, I would say so. I like the strain over the stress personally too.
Yeah, exactly. It makes them more susceptible to being destroyed if they end up doing like red or white maneuvers. Because of the potential of the abuse of this particular card, I would have to make it like a 7-point cost. But I could see it being a 6-point cost as well.
Wow, I would have thought 4.
Well, remember, the First Order has a lot of cheap FO fighters that have pretty decent blues. Specifically, when you're looking at like Scorch and the new DT Brooklyn, that can add dice to their attacks. So getting them in at range 1 effectively makes them 4-die guns for the First Order. So that's why I want to kind of curve the control of this, because I don't want to have a Z-class shuttle with this and Terex, right? So you're giving them boost and a calculate. Like I feel that would be broken. So I kind of want to make the player have that choice of having the good positioning or mods.
See, but I think you're only going to get this off once a game to get that many ships on it. Like I think it's because it's got to be range 0 to 1 of you. So.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like
that's
you're,
true.
it is. I think that Upsilon would be different, right? Like if this, let's just say this medium base only. It's not effective. It's because it's not like it could be a big wide, like Giraffe, like it's a big wide range, right?
Yeah.
This is not. So I don't know. I would say 4 points, and then I don't know, maybe play with it and then go from there.
Okay. Yeah, because you could also do this with the shuttle itself as well.
Yeah. So, and if you think if it's based on when you activate, so like if all your ships are in front of you and you activate, you're going to have to be out of the way for you to boost yourself, right? And if it's going to be all your other ships to boost, they all have to be in front of you. So it's I think it would be a lot harder to set up than you think it is. Okay. I don't think it's as impactful personally. I think it's a great ability, but I don't think it's quite as impactful as you might think it is. I don't know. Give it to Crispy and tell Crispy to build a list with it and see what happens. And if Crispy comes back and says this build is super good compared to my current build, then we know it has to be 7 or 8 points.
Yeah, for real.
So I brought back the dreaded Admiral Sloane for the First Order. Her ability says during the end phase, you may spend 3 charges, and they are reoccurring charges, to coordinate that many friendly ships at range 0 to 3. If you coordinate a green token, you may spend an additional charge for that ship to keep the token for the next round. So this is all during the end phase. I forgot that, sorry. During the end phase. So this is not a coordinating, it gives you a coordinate at the beginning, but it also says you're able to coordinate at the end phase. So it kind of goes to the Hawk repositioning type thing. And essentially, all you would be coordinating is like boosts or barrel rolls after engagement, right? Unless you spend 2 charges and then they could keep that green token. So, again, let's say Kylo Ren, you can coordinate. I guess you could coordinate target locks too. I didn't think about that.
Which is fine because they, that's okay. I would probably want to reword it a little bit to just to clarify, like if the coordinated ship gains a green token, then you can spend an additional charge to keep that for that ship to keep that token the next round. Would you restrict what kind of ship can equip this? Because as of right now,
it would only be FO.
Right. But I'm talking about like medium base ships or large base, or it can like small ships do it as well.
There is no small ship that can carry a crew.
It's just a future proof.
Yeah, then yes, and I would say medium and large base only.
Okay.
I would actually say, if it were me, I would say large base, but they don't have any large base in the current thing. So I don't think we're going to get the Upsilon back anytime soon.
And then in terms of cost, what were you thinking?
To me, this is like an 8-point upgrade, 7 to 8 points.
Yeah, I would say too, because it has elements of like Gleb with the coordinate, and yeah, it's definitely a very powerful card. 8 at the lowest, I would say. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, especially because you're going to get the charges back. You could just give this 3 charges undo and make it like a 4-point card, but I really like the ability to give that white coordinate to a ship, giving, because it's like TAC officer. You're basically saying, I'm going to replace TAC officer with this. So it's at minimum, you have the 3 points, and now you're saying, well, I'm going to be able to do this in my end phase and give people advantages. It really has to be that 8 points, I think, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, I lost my Republic card. Didn't get added in here. Well,
yeah.
We'll do yours first.
Yeah. So this one here is Wolf Yurlarin, who's a crew here that I made for the Republic. I have him for medium ship only, mainly because currently right now the only large base is a Gauntlet, and Wolf was very strictly for like clone Republic forces stuff. So having like a Mandalorian on there, I don't think would like be thematic for it. So I currently just have him on the Lat or an Arc 170 as the ship that he would be on. So it reads here: after you suffer a critical damage, you may perform a coordinate action to a friendly ship at range 0 to 2. If you do, you may gain a strain token to allow that ship to gain a focus token as well. The theme behind this here is off of the episode in Clone Wars where Ahsoka is given command to lead her first mission on her own as commander, and she ends up messing up that particular raid, and it was under Wolf's guidance that she was able to get back in and basically save the day, and essentially where we get the artwork for March Sable Closure for the talent. So I kind of I base it off of that particular episode. Wolf just being able to bolster their forces after they suffered a critical loss, and I wanted to use that as the text for Wolf. Now it is a very powerful card because not only are you coordinating somebody that could potentially reposition into a better shot, you're also giving them a token. So for that, and I do want it to fit on the Lat, I would say this is a 9-point card easy for its ability to provide both a coordinated action and give that ship a strain to get a focus as well.
So why not just take that last piece off? Right, like just say you could perform the coordinate action.
Because the Lat has to suffer a critical result in order for us to do this, I wanted to use this as kind of like a last minute measure, because you suffer damage one at a time, and I want this to essentially bolster that particular force with that extra token, so that way they can come back and try to win the game for that. So this is keeping in mind that the Lat is going to die, and typically does, especially if it has this particular upgrade. And right before it dies, it's able to perform this last action to bolster one of its other units to try to win the game for the faction.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I just think if you got rid of that other piece, you could lower that cost.
Yeah.
That's all. Because, yeah, this is easily a 9-point card. Like, yeah, especially because if you suffer 3 crits, or oh god, can you imagine if you had a hull upgrade?
No, remember you only perform an action once per turn, so you can only do this once. So yeah.
All right. So it's not.
And if you coordinate it early, you won't be able to do this at all. So.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So mine is a talent that I wanted to give. There is a restriction. Oops, can't see those yet. There is a restriction on this talent. It has to be Republic only. It has to be clone or Jedi. So this cannot just go on any effing ship, though I think the majority of the ships are clones or Jedis
Yeah.
in that faction. But I just wanted to make sure that was in there to foolproof it in case anything else happens.
Okay.
So this is called Escape. It's a 2-pip, so you can put this on essentially 2 ships. It is a talent. Before you would suffer damage that would exceed your health, so basically before you die, you may cancel 1 hit or crit result. If you do, suffer 1 crit result underneath your shields. Okay, so that's dumb. I guess this is the old version of it.
So essentially what you're saying is it kind of like countdown, right? Like you can cancel all results to then just suffer a critical results. A face-up damage card.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So that's what I said. So he said it would be a face-up underneath your shield. So let's say you're 4 health, or let's just say, let's say you're 4 health, right? You're a 4 health ship, and somebody does 5 damage to you. You can spend your charge and then take 1 crit, but it has to go under the shields. That way it doesn't kill you, right? But it does do some effect. But you will be able to cancel yourself from getting murdered. So it's basically kind of like saying, hey, it's a foolproof Jedi thing, right? So if the Jedi is going to die, like, so if you have an Ada, this would be great for an Ada. There you go. I'm thinking of Adas when I built this, is I have somebody in an Ada, hopefully Ahsoka, or, somebody cool, and somebody can one-shot an Ada. Now you don't have to be quite as careful with it, but you still have to take a crit. And so if you put a shield upgrade on your Ada, you're still taking a crit. Sorry.
Yeah.
But it was more based off of not Countdown and more based off of like a Grievous, the Grievous crew. That's kind of like how I saw it. But I said, well, if it's going to be for the Republic faction, why not cancel all of them? Give it a restriction that says only if it would exceed your total health. So this does not help you if you only have 1 health left, no matter what. Like, it does not help you. You have to have 2 or more health for this to work.
I think this is a good card. Probably has to be reworded a little bit just to make it a little more clear, but for the potential that it has, golly, I'm having difficulty like trying to put a cost to it. I'm saying the ballpark of around 3 points is where I will put this card.
Yeah, but that's what I was going to say. Is it's a 3 or 4 point card. It's akin to like a crack shot type thing. It's a one-time use. In Republic, you can't recharge things, so I don't know. Yeah. I thought it would be a good way to help give some of those lower health ships a way to live.
So. Nice. All right, and then going on to our last faction here, we have for CIS. Now, I made this crew card for Newt Gunray, which is a character that's been suspiciously absent from the faction, even though it was a very big provider of all the droids and stuff. So he is a medium or large spaceship only, and I put on him friendly ships with independent calculations gain contingency protocol as well. Contingency protocol, which is it's an upgrade that we see on the Siege of Coruscant ships, particularly like the Tri-Fighters and the Vultures, allow them to gain to perform an action when a friendly ship dies at range 0 to 3, and they can perform that action even while they're stressed. This will probably help bolster that faction a lot, so that way those ships can get those extra calculates. And if you haven't played with Siege of Coruscant stuff, contingency protocol is awesome, and I can tell you it is very, very good in helping you get your ships into better positions when you lose like a droid, because the impact of gaining extra actions for this, I would say this would have to be on the level of Kraken. This would probably have to be like a 10 or 11 point card.
Yeah, I agree. This is easily a 10-point card. Like this is like the Pinata droid card, though. The Pinata droid card is cheaper now, but I don't know. I like it. I think you have to be careful only because you're going to be able to fit a lot of droids in there. But can you imagine being able to take a target lock with an energy shell? Like, so JJ did this for Tanner because I bitch about energy cell sucking all the time because I'll roll hit eyeball blank. I'll have trail mix and then it's like, oh, 2, dice, blah, 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 whatever. So this would fix that. because my iron assembler would be able to have a target lock. And it would be like, oh, Merry Christmas to me, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think it would be like, especially it would be a rival to say, hey, do I want to take a force crew on Django, or could I take this? So if this is 10 points, this could rival the force crew on Django, and you can run Django and 6 droids together. So like that, I think that just in of itself is pretty good. I would actually 100% consider that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I built, well, technically 3 cards. So we're going to skip Goldie for a second. We'll come back to Goldie in a minute because JJ's going to hate that card. Essentially, I decided to do Tofin Vane and Tofin's Raiders. So Tofin's Raiders are... So Tofin Vane is from the comic books, and essentially he's like the Red Baron pilot of CIS, which CIS has really no aces. And Grievous is not an ace. I don't care what anyone says. And so Tofin kind of fills that ace role that we get. He is force sensitive, and essentially Dooku manipulates Tofin into fighting for, CIS. And Tofin goes insanely hardcore, like just crazy hardcore into winning, and then he essentially gets in a space battle with Anakin Skywalker. They shoot each other. Tofin crashes. Luke tows him. And he dies, burned up, dead. Just dead. He's not alive. So I wanted to kind of try to emulate that. So the first thing we did is we're going to go over the Tofin's Raiders, right? They're both they're in Tri-Fighters. Both of them are all Tri-Fighters. Tofin's Raiders is a 3-pip card. They have 0 ability. There is going to be 0 ability for them other than the modified organics because they're going to be humans instead of a Tri-Fighter. The reason for that is because if you start adding a bunch of stuff, once we get to Tofin here in a second, they would become probably way too powerful, and I want to keep them cheap. So basically, if you want to run this I4 by itself, whatever. Merry Christmas. There's an I4 modified organics, thing. If it's at 4 points, right? Are you going to take Dolan over this? You're not. You're going to take Dolan anytime at an I5.
Yeah.
With his ability. But that way, it leaves you with the ability to add some loadout in there without them being overpowered. Tofin is the squad leader, so essentially his ability says, after performing a focus or evade action, gain a matching token. So it's like a Perceptive co-pilot for both of focuses and evades. Now, you could spend one of your energy to coordinate one Tofin Raider, even if the ship is stressed. Because if you read the comics and you look through it, he was able to command his fighters to basically all be somewhat aces. So this gives them the ability to have double reposition per se, however you want to show it. But because of it, you can't take like a boost focus if you're stressed. So if they go a barrel roll evade, they could do a boost, but they wouldn't be able to take a focus. They could take a focus. They could do a couple of things without being too overpowered. Now, the one caveat, which I don't think we've seen yet, is Tofin has to spend a force charge to do a linked action. So Tofin doesn't get to get stressed. But on the opposite side of things, he has to spend his force charge to do those linked abilities. He's an I6. Essentially, I don't care what anybody says, they burn down. You would not give him like any munition slots at all. He would have to be munitionless. Otherwise, he would become just way too powerful.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I definitely agree.
I tried to base him off of kind of like how you would see like Anakin Ada, right? That's kind of what this is somewhat modeled after, except for instead of all the extra force tokens, you get the energy tokens. I think the biggest issue I had with this is I don't have enough text space to basically make it a non-recurring force, and then say you have to perform a red maneuver to get your force back, right? That would be the ideal thing, kind of make it like a Keo. But I didn't have enough space to put all that on there, so I didn't know how to do that.
Okay. In terms of point costs, what are you looking at?
Oh, this would be, to me, it would be 5 points, maybe 5 to 6 points.
I was actually in the 6 to 7 point cost because of the double tokens.
But you still don't live forever though, and they don't have that great maneuvers.
Right, but it's also an I6, right? That has the potential to reposition, right? So if you look at like Anakin Ada, right, which has 3 hull as well and 3 agility, it has one less red for its front arc, although it does have the bullseye. It does have the potential to outmaneuver, right?
And how
or to
much
at
is
least
that?
dodge to a little bit.
And how much is it worth?
6 points.
Okay, so this can't be
Right.
like more than 6 points. Period.
Well, right, but you get the 3 dice. The point I'm trying to say is that you get the 3 die arc no matter what, right? You don't have to be in bullseye for the Tri-Fighter to get 3 dice, right? Naturally, so already it has an advantage on that particular part of the stat line versus Ada Anakin. While Anakin does have 3 force, and that does help him, it's still only single tokens per conversion for focuses. A focus token will convert all those results, right, with a single token use. So it is better than that. Granted, if you do end up doing like a Talon roll or a K-turn with the Tri-Fighter, then you lose the ability to get those double tokens. But it's still very powerful to have double evades. That makes it very difficult to shoot the ship down. I almost would want to. No, I wouldn't give him more force just to get rid of the charges. But I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to gauge the impact of the force usage for the tokens in that case. So I don't know. I'm a little torn on it, but I think 6 points probably is the better cost for it. But I could see this also going to 7 just because it is powerful to have double focuses or double calculates in addition to the reposition for this particular ship.
Yeah, I think it has to be 6 points, so you wouldn't be able to. So the idea would be is you could run 4 of these ships. It's a 4-ship list.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the coordinates mean nothing unless you're running Tophin's Raiders.
That's right. That makes sense.
I don't know. I wanted an ace. I think it's good. So
yeah, it's definitely great. I like the pilot a lot.
So the last one that I had, and this is the one JJ's probably going to complain about, is if you remember from Clone Wars, right? There was a replacement astromech that they gave to Anakin and Obi called R3-6S. And Anakin liked to call him Stubby, but I think Ahsoka called him Gulby. At the start of activation phase, assign the make it look like an accident condition to an enemy ship. So it's a crew card that gives you a condition card that you get to give to an enemy ship. The condition is this: before rolling dice for an attack, you may take a strain to give this condition card back to its owner, right? So essentially, if you assign it to somebody else, they could take a strain to give the card back, right? Before rolling defense dice, you could take a deplete to give this condition card back. So that way you have a way of getting out of this no matter what before you have to roll dice. So the key is it has to be before you roll dice, though, because if JJ comes in, shoots you, and then you give the card back, right? It's not as impactful because you know the dice results. So that's how you can get rid of the card. The condition for it is while this card is assigned to you, during an attack or defense, your opponent may change one of the dice to any side they choose after the dice are rolled. There's also a secondary caveat that basically says, during the end phase, give the card back to your opponent. If you do not give the card back, so you have to give the card back every turn no matter what. That way it can't just stay in one ship. If you do not give the card back, take 2 stress tokens and set the condition card aside out of play. So you could take 2 stress and get rid of it. That way it can't be effective for the whole game.
Okay. So, for the first condition card, right?
It should say may in there. That's where I screwed up.
where it says you may take a strain or
Oh,
the
that.
plate to give the condition card back to its owner. When you say that, do you mean the ship that has Goldie equipped?
Yes. Because
And
think of
do
that
they-
condition card as like, I know the visual is different. Like they would normally go in one of those black cards, but I couldn't find a template for it.
So no, I'm just trying to like wrap my head around the concept. So does that mean that the condition card is now assigned to the owner of Goldie?
No.
So it means that they just lose the condition then.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. No. You are not giving it back. That's nope. That's not the way Goldie worked. Is Goldie did everything to sabotage everything and then reported back to Dooku. If I remember, I don't think it was Grievous. I think it was Dooku. It could be Grievous. I can't remember anymore. But whatever. Goldie reported back and essentially like did everything in his power to sabotage the Republic.
Right. Okay.
So yeah. So no, you're not giving the condition to that player. Back to the owner. It's basically like, think of it this way. If Zam were to attack before Zam revealed Zam's card, you could spend a focus token to cancel the Zam card effect. So that card would become null and void on Zam. That would be the way this works is this card becomes null and void by essentially taking the deplete or the strain token.
All right. I would probably change the condition card to give it a Dooku-like effect, right? Like while you roll a dice, your opponent may call a result, and if that result is not rolled, then they can change it to the named result that they called out, right? So like let's say they call out a blank and you roll natties, then your opponent can now change one of your natties to a blank.
Maybe, but then you just killed the power level of it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, because I feel like if the opponent has 100% control to change one of your dice to anything that they choose, that's going to be guaranteed every time. Whereas Dooku, there's a chance that it may not work out. So that's why I think that it would probably work better that way, especially if this is a droid that reports to Dooku. It may work just like Dooku wants it to work. So I feel like that's how it would work, but it will be reversed, right? Instead of you, the person who has the condition card, being able to mod their dice, it's the opponent who gets to choose now for it.
Then the only issue I have with that is then you being able to set it outside of play just makes this card ineffective. So the idea is this is like a gambling card. This is high risk, high reward. You could take 2 stress and get rid of it after it's been used once, if you want. Or you can just say, I want the consistent effect of having 1 less dice.
Okay.
Because if you go to where they have to call it, like Dooku doesn't work very well to some extent. Like, especially in defense, you're only rolling... the majority of your dice are either blank or evade, right? So, I don't know. I mean, you could do that, but then you'd have to change how to get rid of that card. So, like, the idea is going to be is this card will work for 1 round, and then somebody just takes 2 stress and gets rid of it.
Or they can just take the deplete or the strain to get rid of it.
They can, but then next round, I'm giving it back out. The 2 stress means it's never used in the game again.
So you'll probably want to change this then to the system phase, right? When you assign the condition. So it'll work like the Zam timing. So it'd be like during the system phase, you can assign this to an enemy ship at range X, Y, Z, and then they have the ability to then make a choice at that point. Like that way, the card is always in play.
I'm not following, I guess.
So Goldie right now, right, is at the start of the activation phase, right? You assign the condition card to an enemy ship, right? There's no distance on that one. I would say you would change it to the system phase, and that way you can assign it to an enemy ship within a certain range. It could be 0 to 2, it could be 1 to 3, whichever you want, and then you can shorten the condition card to say when you're rolling for attack or defense, you can suffer a strain or a deplete to take off this condition, and then put in the condition card. While you have this condition card, your opponent may do X, Y, Z to do that, so that we can fit it all on 1 card, and it's assigned every time during the system phase if it's not already assigned to a ship already.
So then how does the ship get rid of it? Like permanently get rid of it?
I that's the thing. I would not take it out of the game. I would have it
Oh,
as an ongoing, like something that could be assigned every turn, like the ZAM cards.
Okay.
You just do it during the system phase. So it can't get out of play. It's just something that's assigned at the beginning of the system phase until the ship that carries Goldie is gone.
I see. And then you just put a restriction on there. Because again, to me, all right. So I guess then that changes the point cost of it. It's not as it's a little bit more effective, but it's, I don't know. People are really going to hate it then.
Yeah.
If you can't get rid of it, no one's going to like this card.
Like they can essentially get rid of it or unassign it by taking the strain or the deplete, but they can't take it out of the game, right? So you're essentially passively giving that ship a strain or deplete if they don't want that condition to exist on their ship. And then at the end phase, the condition is gone. And then system phase happens, you assign it again. It could be to the same ship or a different ship, as long as they're in range of the carrier of Goldie.
Gotcha. Okay, that's fine. I guess that would make it a little bit more aggressive. But yeah, you could do that. So
yeah. Right.
Well, all right. Well, thank you all for joining us on our holiday extravaganza. That was JJ's holiday wish list for cards he probably doesn't want to see from Tanner. I can't wait to get Goldie in the game so that we can assign that. I could just kill and neuter every one of JJ's ships. Maybe I'll make it. Maybe I'll unpip it so I could carry it on every crew carrier. There you go. Look at that. Now give me a droid that can carry a crew too. Oh, so good.
Oh God, yeah, no, it'd be terrible.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. This is the last cast of the year. We might have a couple of games we might play at night. I don't know. It just kind of depends on what goes on. Maybe even tonight on Friday night, if JJ doesn't go caroling because of the cold, maybe we'll play some Battle of Yavin tonight. I do know we will definitely be off this weekend. We will not be around streaming or talking much probably for that. We will be coming back possibly with another broadcast the first week of January. If not, we'll be back the second week of January for sure. Bringing Charles back into the fold on that week. And then essentially what we will be doing is kind of going through our updated Patreon, some of the stuff that we're going to be doing for giveaways and like a new commitment schedule of different things coming up for the podcast. We'll also have the release of the answers for our community quiz that we, or not quiz, what did we put out? The community forum that we put out to talk about what the next segments are going to be. So that will be what we will be going over. And then we'll be starting to prep for LVO and prepping for Adepticon. So
yep.
So thank you all. Have a very Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. I don't know all the different ones because I'm not religious, so I have no idea. Whatever you celebrate, have a happy holiday over the course of this next 2 weeks. With that being said, we are out, and we will see you bright and early in the new year.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Have a good night.